So today I wanted to talk a little bit about, I don't think the term as I'm going to use it is quite accurate here, but social stories. So social stories are stories that actually I think were originally developed for use with people on the autism spectrum, for children especially on the autism spectrum. And it was a way of trying to help them to better understand the expectations that go along with living in society and interacting with other people, which is something that is more of a struggle for those on the spectrum. But I'm a big believer in bibliotherapy, which I'll talk about at another time. And to me, social stories are part of a continuum, I guess a spectrum again, of kind of on the bibliotherapeutic spectrum. And I want to talk about this kind of approach for not just children who are on the autism spectrum, but for children in general. Okay, and I want to look at a few books today. These books all happen to be by the same author. It's not that I, certainly think that this is the only author out there, but it just happens that she's got kind of a series of these books. And I wanted to, as I say, look at some of them with you today. So My Mouth is a Volcano by Julia Cook. And by talking about these particular books, again, the focus is not on Cook's books herself, is to give you a taste of what's out there and to encourage parents in terms of their interactions with their own children. How one of the ways that we can kind of interact with them and try to help them to understand some of the things that are important for them to understand, again, living in society. So this book, it says, Teaching Children How to Manage Their Thoughts and Words Without Interrupting. I like to remind parents that lots of times what they're looking at when they're talking about problem behaviors with their own children are not things that are necessarily abnormal, atypical, etc., unnatural. But at the same time, they're not things that we want to encourage or let our children just sit at. So it's very typical for children of a particular age to interrupt, right? To feel that whatever it is that they're thinking is so important that they need you to just say it right now. That's not abnormal. But part of their growth and socialization and the developmental process is to help them to learn that's not appropriate, it's not respectful, it's not kind, it's not how we smooth things in social interactions. And so to help them with developing that understanding. Okay, so My Mouth is a Volcano is one of them. A Bad Case of Tattling. Okay, and again, I think that's probably self-explanatory. Help kids learn the difference between tattling and telling. This is very important, probably more so in a school situation it is going to be looking at for a home, but at the same time a really important skill to understand that, to me at least, tattling is about trying to get someone in trouble, whereas telling is informing an authority of something that is important to be known because it needs to be dealt with. Maybe there's a safety concern. It can also be about the kind of the offender who, if he continues to do these behaviors, is going to someday get himself in worse trouble, hurt himself, hurt somebody else. But it's not my fault. This is a really important concept. So the idea that you do have to take responsibility for your behaviors, that there are consequences to what we do, and those consequences happen whether or not we wanted those consequences to take place. Okay, I just want to do it my way. About asking for staying on task and asking for help is the way that she's phrased it here, kind of as a subtitle. Again, another really important skill. Making friends is an art. So this one is less about addressing a problematic behavior than it is about being kind of pro-social, trying to advance a skill, and a skill that is difficult for, I guess for all people to some degree, but for some people, even older adults, older children and adults, some skill behaviors there that don't come quite as naturally to certain personality types. And so this can also be helpful for them. And the last one that I've got to take a look at today is I Just Don't Like the Sound of No. Okay, about accepting no and also helping children understand how to disagree in an appropriate way. Okay, in a way that doesn't say you just need to take and accept whatever happens. Even with authorities, I believe there's appropriate ways for us to disagree with authorities. So as I said kind of at the beginning, it's not that Cook's books are the only books, the best books, but they're a good example of books that are out there that parents can take a look at. If your library system is a relatively good library system, there's all kinds of books out there that you can take a look through. You can browse, you can do some online searching and find a series or an author or a topic. And although these ones are kind of targeted so that they are about in particular these skills, it's also really appropriate and very useful to just use stories themselves. And this is kind of where it slides more into bibliotherapy. Use skills or use stories themselves that illustrate things without making that kind of the key purpose of the storytelling. It's just kind of accidental, it's happenstance that in this story we realize, and then whatever the case might be that we're looking at. So hopefully these videos are helpful to you, that they give you some kind of ideas to realize what you're capable of and to sidetrack any problem behaviors. And if you've got any questions or comments, feel free to be in contact. I'm interested to know what would be most helpful for you. Thanks.